Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Well, we did actually. We have also continued trying to get across to Dr. Okezie Ikpeazu, the governorship candidate of the PDP in Abia State. He was scheduled to also speak on the same matter, but at the moment, we've not been able to establish connection. But we will keep trying until the program ends and see if we could get across to him as earlier scheduled and agreed. Well, let's go ahead now. We're joined by Dr. Tam-George. He is the Director, Institute of Communication Studies here in Lagos, as we continue our focus looking ahead of the forthcoming elections this weekend. Thank you for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, yes, indeed. What a time it was this last elections, the presidential and the National Assembly elections. Different experience for different people, even us who had the marathon session focusing on the event of the day. But let's look back at all of those eventually. How did it turn out for you?
I think it went pretty well. We have a president-elect now, and the current president has also graciously accepted the outcome of the elections. And I think it is good for democracy because, you know, democracy is not just about people casting their votes, it's also about people respecting the outcome. In our own system, where we still have very fragile institutions, where the democratic temper hasn't quite manifested, you know, to have an incumbent accept defeat, accept the outcome, and for the president-elect to also extend his hand of fellowship to the incumbent, I think it's a very good thing for our democratic experiment. And I think this is something that we need to see more of at all levels of the democratic structure that we have in the country.
So does that suggest that all those peace accords that they signed at the time, after all, it meant something? Because, I mean, much as people have said, look, it's people that make the system. So it looks as though they kept to it. They were committed to ensuring that it worked. And then they're also acting on it, it seems, at the moment.
Yes, I think the peace accords, symbolic as they may appear at first, you know, meant a lot in the final analysis. But I think what was more important in the presidential election is that the people spoke unequivocally. And when people speak in such an unequivocal manner, you are left actually with no choice but to respect the outcome. Were the elections perfect? No. Even the INEC chairman himself acknowledged that in many respects the PVCs were not evenly distributed. The card readers didn't work in a number of cases. I think these are just some of the problems that characterize human processes. But in the final analysis, we had an outcome, and the incumbent accepted the outcome. And so this had a very powerful effect on the supporters across the country. And what we've seen so far has been a lowering of the political temperature. In the next 1 week, a few days from now, on Saturday, we are going to have the governorship elections. Some people are wondering whether there should be a domino effect. What psychologists call the domino effect. What has happened in the center, will it necessarily happen, send the political sensation down the spine of all the states? It could happen, but I hope it doesn't. I hope it doesn't because, as they say, all politics is local. General Buhari will not be paying salaries in the states. The states have governors who have a constitutional responsibility to administer governance in those places. Nigeria has over 10.5 million children out of schools. Where are they? They are scattered in all the 36 states, and the governors have a direct responsibility to administer those states effectively. So my own suggestion will be that, yes, the president-elect has emerged under a certain party platform, but it will be better for our democracy if there is no domino effect. Let each state decide what kind of government they want, what manner of administration they want, and no, irrespective of the party at the center. There are local issues, and they should be concerned and vote according to those issues, I think.
Are we really looking towards that? Because being also a communication expert, sometimes you look at the vibe that people are already getting, and look at the headlines. Some are already talking, for instance, for the front page of Abuja Inquirer. How true that is another thing. They're saying that even the Senate President is contemplating moving away from the People's Democratic Party, and that's the domino effect. And now we're getting to see that it is absolutely important that grassroots governance and politics is the in thing. How do we make it really, really different from what people are seeing at the center, to the extent that the people can then realize that this is about us,
yes,
and not tied to the center, as we've always seen?
Good question. In fact, that's just the point I made. You see, as I sit here, we don't have elected local government administrations in about 30 states. This is a deficit for our democracy. What we have are just local government caretaker committees appointed by the governors. This is a major problem. This is a direct attack on democratic practice. This has nothing to do with General Buhari. As I speak, salaries have not been paid in more than 23 states. This has not, Buhari will not pay salaries in Osun State, which has not paid salaries for 6 months. He will not clear the refuse in Abia State. These are responsibilities of state governors. So my suggestion is that let the states decide who is best suited to administer them. Whatever the government in, at the center, shouldn't matter to them. Let them vote according to the specific issues that affect their lives. So this whole notion of domino effect, people gravitating from one party to the other, it may work well temporarily for politicians, but if you look at the long view of political participation, if you look at the long view of the kind of emphasis that we want to place on good governance and accountability, the people must vote according to the issues that affect them, and they ought to make sure they strengthen the structures that will hold those they eventually elect to account. The president-elect, whenever he's sworn in May, will only provide, the moral focus, the policy focus for the federal government. And this can, find manifestations, I agree, on a state-by-state basis. But the actual day-to-day nuts and bolts of administration will not, in the states, will not be done by General Buhari. It will be done by elected officials at the state levels. And that is why I think that the domino effect shouldn't apply. If we want to deepen our democratic practice, what we should look for is a situation where people will wonder whether we need to return a government that hasn't paid salaries for 6 months. Should we elect a party that can't even clear refuse? Can we allow a situation to continue where elected representatives are flying around in private jets?
Basically, you're making it easy for the people.
Yes.
They should look at issues.
Issues on a state-by-state basis. We've seen situations where, as I was saying, governors fly around in chartered jets, actually buy private jets that sometimes run into about 7 to 9 billion naira. And in these states, people do not have a cup of water to drink. General Buhari has nothing to do with that. The outgoing president, President Jonathan, has nothing to do with that. This is the direct constitutional responsibilities of the state governments. And so it seems to me that the only thing people can do logically at the state levels is to make sure they vote according to the local issues and vote according to the people they are convinced will deliver these basic services.